We're going to talk Real Madrid. I want to start with you, Ali. And we've seen a few deals being done as far as contract extensions to some very talented youngsters at Real Madrid. They're getting their work done nice and early and ensuring they don't have any sweaty palms when it comes to the final year of some of their stars' contracts. What have you made of the recent business that they've done, Ali?
It's necessary business for Real Madrid. We have seen the transition of Real Madrid happening over the last 18 months right in front of our eyes. We have seen the end of Casemiro, Kroos, Modric. That has happened right in front of our eyes, and then other players have taken those positions. And it's interesting, last week we were talking about where is Luka Modric going to go? What happens with Toni Kroos? Well, I think we have an answer now. What we know is that Real Madrid's future lies with Fede Valverde, lies with Camavinga. And as to what happens in the attacking side, yes, it's going to be Bellingham, as we know. But of course, Vini Jr. and Rodrygo. And now Real Madrid, you understand what the future of the club looks like. And the other pieces that you may add to that, well, that'd be great. But you have a core group of players that is now available to you on the long term. And it tells you that Real Madrid knows very well that they have to jump ahead of the curve, because if these players that we just mentioned, if they hit the market, then they're all long gone. It's going to be very difficult to keep, because Real Madrid is going to be competing with money out there that perhaps they don't want to spend. So guess what? Let's jump ahead of the curve. Let's secure these deals. Let's not allow these players to hit the market, or at the very least think about hitting the market. And so therefore, we know what we're going to be for the next 5 to 10 years.
It's basically smart business as far as the evolution of the football club is concerned, Alex, isn't it?
Yeah, this has been Madrid's strategy really over the last few years. They've had to be smarter. I think there was a realization a few years ago that they couldn't necessarily compete with the biggest spenders in European football, the likes of PSG or of Manchester City, which is a strange position for Real Madrid, money bags, Real Madrid traditionally to be in. So there was a realization, I think they had to be a little bit cleverer. They had to go and get some of these players earlier in their development before they became established stars. That's what they did when they went and got Vinicus and Rodrygo as teenagers from Brazil. They were sort of big gambles at the time, spending 45 million euros on each of them as unproven teenagers. They've been proven to be good decisions. Everyone knows that Camavinga was a bargain when they got him for 30 million euros. Certainly Fede Valverde was when they got him for just 5 million euros. So this has been smart, I think, from Real Madrid. I think what's been interesting as well is the way that they've kind of choreographed the announcements of these contract renewals. There's definitely been a sort of a theatricality about it, one after the other, in the space of a couple of weeks. Vinicius, then Rodrygo, then Camavinga, then Valverde. It's making a statement, I think. I think it is saying, look, we've got these young players who are the future. They're the future of this club, and they want to be here.
Let's go through the players individually, Ali, and talk about what their future could be at Real Madrid. Why don't we start? Kind of combine the two with Vini Jr. and Rodrygo. We've got Endrick coming in over the next 12 months, the Brazilian teenager, potentially a new striker. That might be Benzema. Bellingham's the kind of golden child. So you've got Vini Jr., who plays a lot wide left. You've got Rodrygo, who plays a lot wide right. Where do they fit in when everything is kind of said and done and they've got who they want, and then they have to decide who plays?
Well, if it plays out the way that you just laid it out, they play right there. That's what they do in those very positions that you just mentioned. Now, the Endrick situation is in the same mold that Alex was talking about with Vini Jr. and Rodrygo, that you indeed are taking a calculated gamble on a player. You're investing that money and you're saying, this guy is going to be important to us. But that's talking about potential, not quite the reality just yet in terms of what he can be for Real Madrid. We don't know that. We expect him to be a big player, but we don't know that for sure. So let's talk about what we do know. What we do know is that Vini Jr. and Rodrygo both were sort of fighting Carlo Ancelotti on the idea of playing more central roles. And Carlo Ancelotti essentially said, hey, relax. Okay, you two, you're going to play here and you're going to be productive in this position. Can you trust me on this? Can you trust that I've been around this game and I have perspective and I know that you guys are going to be successful in these positions? And reluctantly, both Vini Jr. and Rodrygo, after they have complained about this, they have continued to play in central position. And what has happened? Now they're scoring goals. Imagine that. Oh, what a miracle that Vini Jr. and Rodrygo were going to score goals. And Bellingham supporting from behind. So instead of fighting Ancelotti, if indeed both Rodrygo and Vini buy into this idea and understand that it doesn't have to be a situation in which, well, Bellingham now is the big guy, so now I'm not scoring my goal. So now what am I going to do if I'm Vini Jr.? No, how about you take advantage of the fact that you have a guy like Bellingham on the field and that he is going to attract attention. And guess what that's going to do? That's going to leave you isolated in 1v1 situations. And sometimes it's actually going to leave you free. And Vini, free, final third. Yes, give me some of that. If I were him, I would enjoy the position. The fact that now outside backs and center backs have to make a decision. Who tucks inside, who goes to the outside. And in that fraction of a second in which they don't know what to do, Vini can take advantage and be free going towards goal. So if he just processes, and Rodrygo as well, processes this information as, you know what, the presence of Bellingham does not hurt me. It actually helps me and enhances my game. Both of them are going to be really successful in that layout that you just mentioned.
Before we move on to Camavinga, something you said in that last answer, Carlo Ancelotti would say to Rodrygo and Vini, yo. Now, he's 64 years old, Ancelotti. At which stage is it acceptable to say yo to the youngsters? And at which stage is it time to just utilize better language, Ali?
See, this is managing 101, Mark. You have to be able to communicate with your players. Okay. You don't stay around in this game for as long as Ancelotti has if he's not able to actually communicate with the players. And sometimes you got to drop a yo. Yo, Vini. Yo, Rodrygo. Come on, man. Okay. You got to be able to communicate. Now, this is not the language that he's using, of course, but he has to be able to get that message across. And to his credit, apparently, these players listen to him. Whatever Ancelotti does, these players, they seem to be able to execute it. It doesn't have to be yelled. It doesn't have to be screamed. It just has to be communicated correctly to a specific player. And this, from what we have seen, has happened with both Vini Jr. and Rodrygo.
Okay, stop, collaborate and listen. Alex is back with a brand new transition to Camavinga. Where does he fit in? Central midfield, left back, squad player, first name on the team sheet in that central area. What do you reckon, Alex?
Yeah, I think Camavinga, much like the other three players we're talking about here, nobody doubts his quality. Everyone recognises he's a top talent, a top player. The only question is what you say, exactly where does he fit into this Real Madrid team? Now, if you ask Carlo Ancelotti, Ancelotti says he's a pivot. He's a holding midfielder. And that's interesting because I think a lot of other people who watch Camavinga think, well, does he have the necessary discipline to play that role? And if you ask him to play that role, are you kind of affecting what makes him such an exciting player, which is his kind of energy and his sort of non-stop engine and ability to get up and down the pitch? Shouldn't he be more of one of the other kind of two midfielders in a midfield three rather than the pivot? And the other issue is that he doesn't like playing at left back, but he's brilliant at left back. Every time he plays there, he does really, really well. He's actually more convincing often, I think, than either Mondi or Fran Garcia this season. And in certain games, Ancelotti has picked Camavinga at left back, partly to squeeze an extra midfielder into the team, and partly because he knows he's really, really good there. But he doesn't like it. Camavinga, every chance he gets, says that isn't my long-term future. So let's see. I mean, Ancelotti knows what he's talking about. Who am I to question him? He says he's going to end up as a pivot. I guess we should go along with Carlo. And by the way, on his Ancelotti's ability to communicate with the youngsters, don't forget that famous photo after the Champions League final of him, sunglasses on, cigar in mouth, celebrating with Vini and Rodrygo and Militao and the rest. Uncle Carlo has no problem hanging with the kids, I think is fair to say.
Fede Valverde, the last one who signed a new contract. Ali, I'll give you a blank sheet of paper and say, Valverde is the first name on your team sheet. You choose where he plays. Where are you putting him?
I don't even think Fede Valverde knows that answer himself. Plays a different role for Uruguay than he does for Real Madrid. I think, honestly, he's a coach's dream. And I imagine that Carlo Ancelotti would agree with that he gives you the flexibility to cover so much space given that long stride that he has and the power with which he runs and how much he's able to cover offensively as well as defensively. He has passing range as well. He can hit a shot from distance. There's a lot to like about Fede Valverde. And so I think the reason as to why he's not given sort of a central position here, you're going to sit in front of the back four or you're going to play ahead of that holding midfielder, is because in some ways that limits that physicality and that ability to run and cover spaces. and the freedom to run, which I think is what Fede Valverde likes to do. He just wants to run. He just wants to get out in open field and run with the ball, run without the ball. That's why you see him playing more on the right-hand side. And I think perhaps that's potentially where his best position is. And I think that's where Ancelotti has him, in that he has the freedom there to run and he has space to go with the ball, but he also has the responsibility defensively. That I think Fede Valverde gravitates towards that responsibility defensively as well, making a challenge, making a tackle, running with the ball out of the back so that they can create some transitional opportunities. He is, again, a coach's dream because he gives you flexibility, but his best position is probably on the inside right of midfield with the freedom to get out in wider areas.